Hello friends, and welcome back to my Flosstube and variety show. I'm Emily Williams from Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and this is Flosstube and variety show number 4. And as you know, if you've watched me before, Flosstube part means cross stitch, variety show means variety. So we'll see what happens. Thanks to those of you who are tuning in for the first time. I appreciate it. I hope you enjoy this. And for those of you who are returning, I appreciate that as well. I'm supposed to give the formalities. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, click the bell, and so on. I'll also I might remember to say that at the end, but evidently, it's important to YouTube. Leave a comment is another thing that YouTube likes, which I would also like because I would enjoy seeing your comments. But let's get into it. So Flosstube part means cross stitch, and so we're going to start with my cross stitch projects. This is the book Sweet Land of Liberty by Blackbird Designs, and I have been working on this piece, which is called Salute to Abigail. And this happens to be, since it's the first weekend in June, it is the weekend, the June weekend of the Blackbird Designs Weekend Sal, which has a hashtag on Instagram, BBD Weekend Sal, S-A-L. S-A-L means stitch along. And I'm doing this as part of that, so a picture of this will show up on Instagram later. And I'm enjoying this. I've made a lot of progress since the last time I showed it to you. I think mostly that motif, that quilt block type motif, and I've started on the flower next to it. So that will be good. And I'm enjoying that. The next thing, I mentioned last time that I was going to start, or thinking about starting, and that is this temperature tree by StitchinMommy. StitchinMommy has a YouTube channel, which I enjoy watching. She also has an Etsy shop, and she designs things, and temperature tree is one of her designs. And you see, I blitzed through that trunk and made it all the way up to the June branch. And then I stitched in the two colors that represent June 1st and June 2nd. The leaves are that, June 1st and June 2nd. And the colors of the leaves represent the high temperatures of each day. And that is fun. It's going to be interesting. I enjoy temperature projects, and I showed you one of my previous videos. I tried to show you a picture of the quilt that I did in 2020, which was a temperature project. The next thing I'm going to show you is my progress on this Talavera, which is a mystery stitch along. And the mystery part means that each period of time, in this case each month, a new section of the pattern is revealed. And so we don't know what the whole thing is going to be, but we now know 6 months worth of it. So those are the 4 blocks, the outline of the whole thing, and the design in the columns. And I am sorry to say I cannot exactly remember where I was the last time I showed this to you, but I'll just show you what I have done. So I've done these 2 blocks and the entirety of that column. And I'm pretty sure I was pretty close to the same place last time, so maybe no progress since the last time I showed it. In a moment, I really am this time going to remember to talk about some other YouTube channels I enjoy and talk about my philosophy about cross-stitching and how it's changed. The next thing I'm going to show you, I have been working on this a lot. My goal on this is to finish it in 2 years. It's 72,000 stitches. And in order to do that, I'm going to show that a little bit longer because you really can't tell what you're looking at very much on the stitch part yet. But The challenge with this, in addition to its size, is that it's so much gray and white, which it makes it hard for me to even show you the progress because you have to be able to discern. And I'm sorry, I didn't press it or anything. I use a hoop, as it's clear. I'm gridding this myself. Without the gridding, I would not be able to do it, period. I just wouldn't. It's just too, everything is too similar. But I am enjoying stitching it. This is the main project that I'm doing on Pattern Keeper, which is an app for the Android world, and that keeps track of your stitches. It helps you, it highlights the symbol so you can see where to stitch. Between the gridding of the fabric and that app, I'm able to do this project. I'm not sure that I would choose to do it otherwise. And then finally is this one that I think I've shown almost every time. This is called Ornament by ZephyrMood, which is an Etsy shop. And you can see that there are 25, it's a 5x5 grid. And most of the blocks are 1 block big, and 2 of them are 4 blocks big. And I am now 40% done with it. I finished that 1 block and I'm almost done with that border. So the next thing I'm gonna do is to come down on the left side and start the next individual block. So that is that one, 2 shades of blue, which are what are called for in the pattern. So those are the 5 cross-stitch projects I'm currently working on. But I wanted to mention a couple of YouTube channels that I've been watching a lot. One of them is Saltbox Stitcher, which is Carol in Jacksonville, Florida. And she does a lot of sampler stitching. She makes a lot of samplers, mostly samplers, many reproduction samplers. There are many wonderful designers who are taking antique samplers and charting them so that they can be stitched by the modern stitcher. And Carol does a lot of those beautiful ones, as well as original samplers that are in the style of older samplers. And I enjoy Carol because she has a great sense of humor, and she shows a lot of different types of projects of the, 15 or 20 designers that are the main sampler type designers these days. And she does beautiful work, and she is just an interesting person. She has a family that she talks about and so on. So that's nice. She also has a long arm quilting business, so I'm always interested when she mentions that because I do too. The other one I want to talk about is the channel is called Brenda and the Serial Starter. And Brenda is Brenda's Sampler Stitcher on Instagram, and the Serial Starter is Laura, who is Mozart and Maud, or Maud and Mozart. I think it's Maud and Mozart on Instagram. And they are a couple of friends. They live fairly near each other. They do a video every 2 weeks, and they are funny together. They are really fun. They enjoy each other. They have different tastes and styles and what they like to stitch. And I have thoroughly enjoyed those videos. In fact, I went back, I discovered it sometime last year, and I went back quite a ways back, possibly to their very first video. I might have watched them all by now, just to see how things have gone for them, and that's been quite fun. And Brenda and the Serial Starter are one of the sponsors, if you will, of the Blackbird Design Weekend Stitch Along, the first weekend of each month that I mentioned when I mentioned my Salute to Abigail project a moment ago. Now, the interesting thing, and the reason I wanted to mention those YouTube channels before I talked about another detail of my stitching, is people who do sampler stitching. Really, in my experience with YouTube these days, Flosstube, most people who are doing a lot of cross-stitching are using linen or even weave, such as Lugana, which is an even weave fabric, linen-like, but not linen. And very few people are using Aida. Now, I use Aida for most of my cross-stitching, partly because I have it in my sewing room. It's left over from back in the 80s and 90s when I did a lot of cross-stitch. But also because I find it so much easier to see. So my projects that I showed you today are on Aida or 22 count hardinger, which is an even weave. I would call it Aida-like. And I do have, the Talavera is on Lugana. And I enjoy Aida. And one of the great things about Brenda and the Serial Starter is that their philosophy is, A, you have to have a lot of projects going so that you can have choices. And if you don't have a lot going right now, you might have projects ready to go so that you have choices. The second one is stitch what you love. If you enjoy Aida, if you enjoy linen, if you enjoy DMC floss, which is what I use 100%, if you enjoy silk, and you can afford those things, then do it, get it. So I enjoy DMC. I have a lot of it from all those years ago. I enjoy Aida. I am enjoying Talavera on the Lugana. That's fun to stitch on too, easy to stitch on. So I appreciate that philosophy that Brenda and the Serial Starter put out there. And I am adhering to it. I'm stitching what I love, and I'm using the materials that I want to use, instead of being totally influenced toward what the current aesthetic is in cross-stitch. So that is all I have to say about cross-stitch today. And I want to give a couple of minutes to talking about so one of the things, I'm going to talk about 2 games. Let me finish that sentence. I would like to spend a couple minutes talking about 2 games. One of the things I enjoy doing with friends is to play games. Board games, card games, especially those. I also happen to play a lot of video games. I have a Nintendo Switch. I've had the Nintendo systems for many, many years. More about that some other time. And I like to be in a situation where there's going to be an occasion to play games and someone says, Emily, what game should we play? And you know what? I usually have an idea of a game that would be good for that type of setting. So I want to talk to you about 2 games that are family favorites around here. This game is called Fill or Bust, and it's available. You can order it online. I haven't been to a brick and mortar game store in a while, so I'm not certain that it's available in stores, but you definitely can order it online. And what this is, it's 6 regular dice and a deck of cards. And the cards are not regular cards, they're fill or bust cards. And if you've ever played the game or heard of the game Farkle, it is almost the same as Farkle in the way the dice are scored. But the cards make it, give goals, bonuses, restrictions, and so on that Farkle doesn't have. And so it makes it, I think, a much more interesting game than Farkle. The beauty of this game is it can be played, it says 2 or more players, ages 9 to adult. Now this game was given to our son when he was 6, and he totally got it. He understood this game. Now he's a math genius. The part about it that says 9 or more is because you have to understand something about probabilities so you know what to choose to do. But a younger child could definitely play in a group of adults that could help that child with that factor. And the other thing I love about this game, so it does say any 2 or more players, it doesn't have an upper limit. I would say the sweet spot for this game is 5 players. But the beauty of it is, let's say you and a couple of friends are sitting around, you say, let's play Fill or Bust. And then 10 minutes later, somebody comes in and you say, oh, we just started the game. So if it were a lot of other games, that person would just have to wait. But in Fill or Bust, they just take a seat at the table and they start taking their turn. And they are not at a disadvantage by coming in late to the game. You know, I mean, it's possible they could be at a disadvantage if they came in really late. But another game we really have enjoyed is the game No Thanks. This was a gift to us for Christmas a few years ago. This is a brilliant game, extremely simple. Every player has a group of chips. Everybody starts with the same number of chips, and those are the No Thanks tokens. And so a card gets turned up, and when it's your turn, if it's your turn, you turn up the card from the top of the deck, and you choose to either take the card or to put a chip on it that you don't want the card, i.e. you put the chip on to say no thanks. And then the next player has a chance to take the card or put a chip on it. And whoever eventually takes the card, takes that card and all the chips on it. Well, the fact is that the cards are numbered 3 through 35, I believe. And you score the number of points that are the value of the card with some discounts if you have sequences, and you get negative points for the number of chips that you have at the end of the game, and the goal is to have the fewest number of points. So you don't want to take the higher point cards, but if they get covered with a lot of chips because no one wants to take them, then, you know, there's this, you think back and forth in your mind about whether you want that card or are willing to take it or not. And if you don't have any chips left, you have to take the card. So that's part of the strategy too. And that's really fun. And this is the older edition of it, and this is the newer edition. And this is available. You can look for it online. It's available on Amazon and other places. So we enjoy both of those games quite a lot. Neither of them is hard to learn, and they're both suitable for all ages. Actually, No Thanks says 8 and above. Maybe, that may be so. 3 to 7 players is what No Thanks says. So those are a couple of ideas. And I will put the names of these games and everything that I talk about is in the description box below. Then sometimes more details than I mention. The only other thing I'm going to mention is that if you watched my video last time, I think I mentioned that we were going to go to a big family gathering on the Saturday Memorial Day weekend, which we did. It was very fun. Fortunately, it wasn't overly hot. We went down to South Carolina to the home of our niece, and Byron's, my husband's family, joined us there. It was a farewell party for his younger brother who is moving with his wife to Portugal. They're there now. And so it was fun to see people. We hadn't seen most of those people since Thanksgiving of 2019. Some family couldn't make it and we missed them. But hopefully we'll have another chance to get together as a family in the fall when more can be there. So that's all I have for today. I hope that you are enjoying the weekend. As I had said before, I'm going to try to post a video about every week. I have not figured out whether it's better to post, for me, Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, but somewhere in there. That would be the beauty of subscribing and clicking the notifications bell, because then whenever I post, you'll be notified. So that if I'm not completely regular, you'll get a notification of the irregular moments at which I post a video. And one other thing I'm going to mention is that as I said, I have a long arm quilting business. My friend Cindy and I do that. And we are going to put up some videos too coming up. And when we start doing that, I'll mention it here, and I'll put a link in the description box. But soon, within the next couple weeks, we're going to start putting up some videos. She is a riot. She and I have so much fun together. So thanks so much for watching. Thanks for tuning in, and many blessings to you.